Ooh, skills are good. Look at you, talented man.
So yeah, session 6,
Okay.
impromptu time change, but life happens, and that's part of the journey of being a founder.
Exactly. Let me push
Are
it
we
to Twitter.
are we founders?
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs, founders, startuppers. For once, I'm not a solopreneur.
I talked to a lot of people over the years and like solopreneurs. And the one thing I hear from a lot of them, because I had partners from the beginning, they weren't active, but is that, business is lonely as it is. And having somebody else to kind of walk with, I think is pretty dang awesome.
Yeah. I I did it best when I worked in a co-working space with 4 other guys that I was friends with, and we had formed a little cohort. And so regularly, get out of the house, get to a focused place of work, and then have people who you were on a journey with and knew their journey. And so you could grab somebody and say, hey, can we talk this through for a minute? And that went in all directions. Like, it just makes such a difference.
Yeah, it really does. I had Matt Danner at iThemes on the team. And of course, Maud Lindsay was in and around the team in different ways. And it was just, then I have my business group, which I told you I'm meeting with this afternoon. I've walked with for 11 years. And I tell you,
Wow.
it's such a tough job, where you're trying to, like we're doing here, where if it wasn't with you, I'd be sitting here going, okay, what segments are we going to try to hit, and the highs and lows, there's things that you celebrate as an entrepreneur that you maybe not necessarily celebrate with your team. And just having another group or a sidekick or a partner or whatever that is, I think is pretty dang healthy for me, at least.
Yeah. And it's a step better than rubber ducking. It also, I find, because it's like, I don't always immediately respond to you, and you don't always immediately respond to me, but I have a real human being to say things at, even if it's not to talk about it with. And when you see the message in the afternoon and celebrate it with me that I fixed a bug or whatever it is, like, that makes a difference. And you ping me out of, whenever you need to. Like, that's such a difference. Because, like, who did I for a different product, I was having issues with, not issues at all, with EDD. I was trying to hack the hell out of EDD, let's be honest, to make it do things that it has no right doing. But because it's the better product, I'd rather use the core and slap my janky ass code on top of it. Anyway, there's my little EDD endorsement. But I know one of the head programmers over there and was like, I would love to have him look at this. And he and I were in a co-working group years ago. And so I have a little bit of connection with him, but haven't talked to him in a year or two. And so I had to hesitate, and I hemmed and hawed and was like, let me refactor this 5 times before I send it over to him, because I don't want to waste his time. I'm using up a favor. I guess that's my long way of saying that. I'm using up a favor. And if you have somebody you've lost count of favors, or you have a partner, then you don't have to hesitate. And honestly, that lack of hesitation is huge. I hadn't really thought about it like that, but it's just that, what a waste of time. I mean, it was great that it made me refactor my code, because, that's never a bad thing, but to have to think that hard about just asking a question rather than just asking a question. Maybe that's why we all like Chat GPT or something.
Yeah, you're not alone. No, I think that's when I left iThemes, I wanted to do coaching and had some clients my first year before I started with Post Status. And I said, the hardest for me was when I was trying to make these big decisions
Mm.
and even the little ones, and just having someone that I could bounce things off of. So that's one of the reasons I did coaching. One of the reasons I talk about my group as much. Like I left, came back. They were gracious enough to let me come back. And these are several of the guys that were in Phoenix with me. And in fact, that's whose funeral, his dad's funeral. One of the guys that went with us is where I'm going today. While we couldn't meet at a normal time, but just kind of doing life together, but then having someone just to bounce stuff off of. Like, I feel like you're very open, and we're having this conversation where it feels like, the whole improv plus one. It's like I think we're trying to keep each other kind of in on the trail here, but you'd let me veer off and like discuss it. Let's take a side trail.
Yeah.
And come back. And that's part of my process though. And I really deeply respect that and appreciate it for you. But just having somebody that understands that you can bounce stuff off is pretty critical.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big proponent of discussion, not decision, which once I learned that, I'm a big rule person. So like I apply that rule to most conversations and try to make sure that it's clear to everybody else. But also I think more often it's the being vocal about when you're switching to decision. So it's like, okay, we are still discussing. Now we are deciding, because as you've seen, I'm prone to go, oh, that sounded cool. And then I just go off and do it, rather than, is that the best use of my time? Is it the highest priority? All those kinds of things. So try to impose that upon myself a lot of the time too, of like, is this, because I'm the type of extrovert who needs to talk out loud. And so there tends to be a lot of discussion. Oh, hold on. I got a barking dog. Oh, so come on.
I think that's good, especially in the beginning, in the start, is making, the whole woodworking thing is measure twice, cut once kind of thing. Not to say to get into overthinking or overanalyzing, but we're figuring it out,
Right.
Together. And I think that's been pretty critical. And really, like last week was huge breakthrough for me. Is like seeing, okay, here's V1, or here's the free version, I should say, what we're going to do there. And then there's all this we can kind of chase and see what's there for the pro side.
Yep. One more comment on partnerships too is, I think I've talked about, like, I've looked for people to work with for years. And one of the outstanding questions is always that I've heard from other people and I've worried about too, is the like, how do you quantify compatibility? Right. And it's like, I think I'm bringing this up rhetorically, like it's not a question necessarily, unless you have an answer, but it's like you and I sort of talked about it a little bit and then said, okay, let's work on this together. And I didn't hesitate. And of course, then I'm like, then we have we've had amazing conversations. And I think that it helps that we both have been aware of each other for a while, and so have some sense of how we operate. And I think I've heard you speak in public, you've heard me speak in public. So I had a sense of you, and I'm being presumptuous, but I imagine you had some sense of me. But it's definitely one of those, like, what does this look like in a year? And if we end up with, an iThemes or something of decent size, how do you know that person that you casually said, oh yeah, we should work on this little plugin together with, ends up being the person that you partner with? And it's crazy, because there's so much around pairing people and, meeting co-founders and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know. It's like I say, I think I'm bringing it up rhetorically. From my perspective, it's a crapshoot. You just kind of go with your gut.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm trying to think how many times I've partnered, and it's been quite a few, Brian initially with Post Status. I had two partners. They weren't active in the business. At iThemes, I've had several partnerships the last 4 years. I almost think it's like this product stuff. Partnerships and products are very similar in my experience. For me, is that I told Lindsay, I said, when we started iThemes, it's like people bought it and they kept buying it. And it was pretty simple, like a good looking theme, and this is 2008 that I did these things and put them out there, and things that I kind of wanted for myself, but I didn't think like, I didn't have a big inner monologue of like, should I do drop down menu? Should I not? Should I do? I was just doing things I wanted to do, which spoke to, like, I was obviously embedded in our user group that were customers that eventually bought to us. And I think that was first. But like I say, I compare it to baseball, like products and maybe even partnership and people. It's like, classic growing up was Tony Gwynn, San Diego Padres. He got on base all the time. If you hit 300 in the majors, you're in the Hall of Fame. If you have a career consistently with 300, and you're in the Hall of Fame, even close to it, you're probably in the Hall of Fame. And when I left iThemes and tried to start some new products and businesses and partnerships, I was like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. I can do this. And I was like, oh, that means Tony struck out. 3 out of 10 means Tony struck out or got out 7 times out of 10. But he's in the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of like entrepreneurship and products. And I'm going to go even further. Partnerships, like it's not a high percentage of wins in my personal experience. From products, like, I don't know if I told you this, we had 200 SKUs at iThemes when I left, 200 plus. How many of those actually made money?
Right.
Like, maybe that's a little bit low, but like, then I've gotten crushed because things just don't go as fast or as easy as I always want them to. You've done a number of products, and I don't know where you stand with partnerships, but just a lot of failure, a lot of learning lessons.
I learned, I was in New York. I had just moved to New York after college, and there was one couple. So I was pursuing a music career, mostly DJing, producing dance music, electronic music. And there was one married couple who threw a party and had started a label, and they were bananas. They were all over the place. They're still very eccentric people. I love them to death, but they are sometimes out there. But I would follow them anywhere. And I finally quantified it. And I was like, because they do 7% of what they say they're going to do. Everybody in New York City talks a great game. Every bartender is a comedian. Every person you meet working any kind of job is actually writing a script or is in a band or whatever, which is awesome. But most people talk a really good game and don't actually do what they say they're going to do. And so I think that for me, a lot of it is exactly what you talked about. Like, people don't have to have success. Like, I didn't want to work with you necessarily because you had success, but because you've put yourself out there, you've clearly done a lot, you've tried a lot, and you keep trying. And I think that like, for me, that's the gold standard. Like, I try to live by that. Like, I put a lot of products out there. Same thing. How many of my products have actually like done anything, made little blips, but you've got to keep getting up to bat. I think this is the first baseball analogy I've ever made in my life, but you've got to keep getting up to bat, and eventually you're going to hit something, presumably, big or small. And then you want to keep, practice makes perfect kind of thing.
I tell you, the part of like keep going on is the one I've really struggled with the last 4 years. Just keep going on. And then last year with the burnout and all that kind of stuff is just like, it's tough because it's one thing if like this, nothing huge, significant, but not like life shattering is dependent on this. But when I left iThemes, I didn't really have another business to just kind of walk onto. Now PostHash came the next year, and it was like really good timing for me. But now it's still a part-time gig for me. So like it's been tough because you just kind of have these ideas, put them out there. And the theme I told people for how I've done business, at least my iThemes chapter, is stumbling successfully, like keeping going, tripping, but not falling flat on your face, like just kind of keep a low profile to the ground because you're going to keep stumbling. And a lot of the products, for instance, were stumbled. Like, and I'm not saying it's pure luck. However, there was a healthy blend of right time, right place, hard work to get more luck. And then once the first one was rolling, it was easier to add new, when you get that first hit, it's easier to do others. But I still didn't have even a like 50% success rate,
Yep. Well, look at Google. How many products have they shut down?
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, I want to respect your time. So we've got 10 minutes. I've dragged this out much longer than I needed to.
No, I did
too. So product, we have version 002 is in the repo. The cropper has come a long way. We have added a few bells and whistles. I've cleaned up the UI a bit, and then a duplicate cropper is now in the media library. So if you go to media library, there's now an extra button that says upload and crop next to add new. I felt a little bad totally ripping out the add new button, but we can decide to do that because there is now a bypass. So even if you open the cropper and select an image, there's a button that says crop it. There's a button that says just upload it. So you can bypass the cropper. And then the other sort of sneaky thing that I added last minute yesterday is if you go to media add new, it technically opens the media library with the cropper open. So we are totally hijacking media add new. So, I mean, all these are discussions, not decisions. But at this point, we've still got fewer than 10 users, and you and I are kind of, we are a kitten with a ball. We're batting it around, just kind of deciding, where we want to land with it.
It's great, the new stuff that you pushed out. I think that's awesome. Iterating on some things that you feel like, hey, this is a small little chunk I can do that, I think is so good for progress on the product. So I was looking at it on my personal site and then my test site, and I'll give you notes in chat too. But when I tried to upload from the media library and I just installed the new plugin on my personal, do this real quick. It's not showing the preview. Sorry, I should just be showing you. It's not showing that preview, and maybe I've got the wrong image or something like that. But So we go upload and crop. So it's not previewing here, and then I just click square crop. So I've done it at least on 2 sites, and it's done this. So I wanted to mention it. But let me just say, thank you for that button, iterating on those buttons, these 2, because I was testing your previous version, and with images from my phone, and one was like sideways, and I was like, hey, you got that in like, I don't know, an hour after we talked about it.
We are still riding the happiness that is the library we're using. So they have rotate. They also have, you can actually flip it horizontally and vertically, which is an option, but I don't think we need it. I don't yet see the use case, but rotate, I was like, I will add it. He must be onto something. And the fact that you pulled it from your phone and were like, oh, instead of rotating it on my phone and then uploading it, again, make creative tasks simpler, easier, fun. There you go. Like, you shouldn't have to think like, oh, I have to rotate it in one place before I upload it to another. But I will go fix that bug. So to me, the outstanding question is, I think we did come to the conclusion last week that we want a settings page, which lets the creator of the site or whoever is controlling the site, which might be the same person who's creating content, but to go into a settings page and say, for featured images, we want 16:9 and we want them to be 1600 pixels wide every single time. Set it once, forget it, and then they go set their featured image, right? When we are including that. Originally, we'd said that would be a paid thing, but I kind of feel like the free version's useless without it.
Yeah, I do too. And I think we're going to get more momentum with that thing, because like we talked last week, really becomes a cool utility tool for a problem. And so
is feature complete, is product complete.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the settings page with the custom dimensions, that's really our biggest thing left. Is that right?
And we want to, there's all the other holes, all the other places where you upload an image. So to me, after media library, I think block is the next big one. So I think we need, because I use the classic editor, and I'm going to look at adding our cropper to featured image. And classic editor plugin has, millions of installs. So I don't think there's not a clear majority one way or the other. Gutenberg, block editor over classic editor. We need the cropper in both. But since we have the beginning of the block, I think that's the way to go. And I at some point I will look at also applying it to the classic editor.
Okay.
But it's finding all of those primary places. And there's as we've talked about, there's a long tail. Like eventually we will build a module for Elementor and Beaver Builder. But we need to work for vanilla WordPress first.
Yeah. So that leaves me at really, and I'm with this with post edits too, is like we need it seems like we need a lot of users. Start getting more users in there, giving feedback, requesting features. And this next one with the the blocks will be big, but that's another conversation. But like, I think the custom dimensions, then we're getting something. I pinged and CC'd you in those, as you know, Robbie from Beaver Builder, Kathy Zant from Cadence. I need to look at Generate Press. But then we bumped up against like everybody being gone for Asia, WordCamp Asia. But yeah.
Are you going to any WordCamps this year?
I'll have it down for like a placeholder for Europe, and then US is standard for me for sure.
You are going to go.
Yeah. I was supposed to go to Phoenix, but yeah. What about you? Do you have any plans?
I was thinking about US. So if you're going to be there, then we need to meet up. That's in August. So that gives us plenty of time to, I think that'd be a blast. We could do this live. That'd be fun.
Do it live. Let's plan on that. That'd be great. If another opportunity comes up in between, I know WordCamps are getting started and stuff, or we've loosely been throwing around some in-person stuff with post edits, but I'll let you know before we even announce that, and see if you're able to get to it too. Nothing definitive.
I derailed us. So you were talking about getting users. To me, I'm starting more and more, I'm getting anxious that we don't have a website.
Okay.
Which, I mean, we have crop.express, the website that is currently just the cropper, but with no mention of the plugin. And so I'd love for you to start thinking about what that looks like. Even if it's a little banner that then links to a landing, we could have crop.express WordPress plugin and have a landing page temporarily, but just because it's even like I'm linking people to the plugin in the repo, but I feel like we want to start expanding the use case, expanding what we're talking about, to a website.
Yes, absolutely. I think we're there.
In the coming weeks. It doesn't need to be tomorrow.
Yeah. I was thinking about from the brand we talked about last week too. It's like, do we just go ahead and make keep crop.express like it is? Probably link to it. But then at some point we'll probably want to change and update plugin to go what our new brand is. And that made me think about, my mind went to some discussion that could be recorded like this for users, not about our product necessarily or this detail stuff, but hey, here's some sources where you can go find all these images. Some of those more messaging marketing content thoughts we had last week. I was like, that might be pretty good. It's like having that site, maybe scheduling, some, like we outline it loosely and just talk through, and then we can take that, put it on our YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff. And then maybe see if we turn that into like our lead magnet or something like that to start building emails. That's where my head goes initially. But I've got two things on my list: outreach and website. Right now, at least, until you tell me otherwise.
Well, and the other thing that Kathy brought up that I thought was valuable was to aid in your discussions. She's like, "Oh, what does it do?" And you were like, "Here's the plugin." And she's like, "Oh, thanks. Now I have to go find a WordPress install it on this WordPress install. And then because it's essentially a beta, we have no guidance, we have no user docs, we have no anything." And so she's like, now if she even gets that far, she's like splashing around trying to figure out what the hell it does and how. So I kind of feel like we are getting close to, like, I could do a quick time screen capture of, here's how you crop your featured image, 1, 2, 3. Here's how you crop an image going into media library, and put them on YouTube, or, even just to have them in our back pocket. One, for any potential users, we can link to those. If they're on YouTube, we can put those in our README, which goes on the, so it's crop express in 30 seconds, a video in the README doc in the repo. And it gives you something to link to when you're having discussions, because rather than you having to do a demo or people trying to figure it out, here's a quick 30-second video, then let's have a conversation. So it seems like, if you agree, that I feel like that should go on my list.
Oh, if you're good to put on your list, absolutely.
Yeah, I can bang through those pretty quick.
And that lends back to website, is like having something where people can see it. Yeah. Okay. I'll do some thinking on that.
Yeah. Again, I feel like right now, these are discussions, not decisions, but good ideas. So ruminate on them a little bit today. And then, this week or next, let's make some decisions.
Okay. All right. And I'll continue.
No matter what, there's this, as a developer, you're like building product, and it's a straight line. It's a rocket ship going up, but it's inevitable to do everything else. There's the triangle. So as the triangle goes up, it gets wider and wider and wider. I'm just seeing it. It's like, I can just keep adding features. I could just keep making the product better, but nobody's going to know about it. Nobody gives a shit. There's no, but it's like, ever so slightly, the more features, then it's like, the more you want a website, the more you want docs, the more you want feedback, the more you want assets, the more you want swag, the more you want, and it just keeps getting broader as much as it gets taller. It feels like that.
It does. It definitely balloons over time. Okay. So I've got outreach and website, to continue the outreach part. I think Kathy, I think Robbie when he's back. I need to reach out to the Elementor team.
Do you have like the starting of the conversation seemed good. Do you have a plan for specific questions that we're trying to get answered? Or do you want to leave it broad? Or
what I intend to get to them with that is like getting to the heart of what are the things that annoy the team building the themes? What are they hearing from customers? And or even seeing, like they see sites and like the images just blown out and stuff. And I want to keep those conversations open enough where they can tell us something that might surprise us that goes in a particular direction. So, and I think Robbie's very open to that. He just is out this week. So
yeah, sure.
I'm really eager to hear what he says. And that'll be our first integration or, potential integration for us, thinking through that. So that's kind of my intention. And then same thing with any other theme framework from Elementor to Generate Press.
Sounds good.
But open. If you have any thoughts or anybody else we should talk to. But, and with the story I'll share too is like, here's what free is going to be, and then to start to share the story to lead to this could be a great tool for y'all to recommend to your communities kind of thing. So once I get some of those, I'll drill down into, okay, cadence. What are the ratios? What are the things that we could build into free to be, that utility tool?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of my plan there, is just kind of digging in and seeing what we hear, trying to get to the true marrow of it. Like, how are people using it? What are you seeing? And hopefully be surprised.
Love it.
And I'll do some thought too on the website. I know that's been something we've been talking about.
But I like what you just said. Like, that solves the problem. If we switch to a branded site that or a company site that lets us be open up to anything, Crop Express can stay the same, but start to talk about the plugin and link back to what ultimately would be the shopping cart or the, the main marketing site around it, but let crop.express as a website be a lead magnet, the utility site that is a lead magnet for the WordPress plugin and for anything else we end up spinning up.
Yeah. And then you've got a great free tool out there. So
right.
I do think, like you said, the banner do you want the WordPress version? You want this in WordPress, and link over to the thing will be helpful as we kind of grow for people to see the vision. Okay. All right. Anything else you had?
No, I think I talked to you before. I've been watching Silicon Valley, so I'm feeling like we need to scale up. We need to get some venture capital. I need at least 3 more developers under me.
I got to go back and watch that.
Move all of our operations out to Silicon Valley, of course. Hey, I'm in San Francisco in 3 weeks. I'll do our first raise. I'll talk to some angels out there.
There you go. When that came out, I actually happened to have at the time a little commuter car. It was a Ford Escape yellow, just like
Aviato.
Classic.
All right, man. Well, good luck today.
Okay.
It'll be a long day. Hope you'll be all right.
Yeah. And I'll appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Okay. Sounds good. And I'll get these webinars back on reschedule them and put them on our calendars. So
sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Steve.